Hi, viewers, and welcome to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to a special edition of Found Footage Fridays. I am interviewing the director, writer of 2024's amazing influencer horror found footage film, Ask. And today we're actually going over another amazing project that he has going on, and it's something that you may have already heard of because it premiered this Wednesday, June 4th, and that is Found Footage Finds. We're going to get into what it is, where you can find it, and all of that. But first, hi, Chris. Thank you for coming back to the show. I'm so happy to be doing this with you. I feel like it was a long time coming. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so glad I have a project that brought me back since you've been on the show, because last time I was on, I got to talk to Angel, who's fantastic. But you and I obviously know each other from many social media platforms and from shared interest in found footage. So it's fun to be able to talk to you in an official capacity now.
Same. I've been so excited. And honestly, before we even talked about this new project, I was trying to figure out how we get you back on the show because with the interactions that we've had, you have been someone that I have wanted to do a collaboration with, interview, project, whatever, because I think when you reached out to me about reviewing your film, you were one of the first people to ever ask me when I started doing any type of content creation whatsoever, and kind of pushed me, like, not in a bad way, obviously, but it was something that I wanted to do. So it kind of like pushed me into doing content creation. So I'm super thankful for that. Again, like, we've talked so much that this has been like a fun partnership already, even though we haven't really done anything yet. So I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, it's fascinating actually. Like our trajectories were we were both sort of like you were dipping your toe into the content creation and I was dipping my toe into the filmmaking, and then now jump ahead whatever it is 6-7 months later. I've got the one film which is thankfully being fairly well received within the found footage community, and I got a second project coming out, and you got like a steady gig talking about this in an official capacity now. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, and then going back to, again, your 2024, what was a very big hit for me, Ask. If you want to just tell our viewers a little bit about what that is and how it came about.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a little while since I did a summary on that one. I haven't talked about. So I kind of call it like the monkey's paw of the influencer generation. It's kind of a story about a trying but failing motivational YouTuber who is struggling, trying to make a career, and then he gets some advice from a mysterious life coach that immediately turns around he becomes successful as a result of it. But that success comes with some dark elements that he was not aware of when he first decided to do it. And so it becomes sort of a be careful what you wish for, Twilight Zone type story, but set in the world of YouTube influencers.
Yeah, and honestly, that is definitely what it is. Every time I review it or I talk to people and I try to get them interested, especially found footage people, because the found footage community will always get hidden gem references a lot quicker than people who are casual fans of horror. Because I always say to the people in the found footage community, this is Lexi meets Wishmaster meets the Monkey's Paw. It's got that super influencer element to it, which is a huge subgenre of horror that I've been loving, whether it be the found footage subgenre or non-found footage. So I love that you combine two of my favorite types of subgenres and you put it together. And here on Voices from the Mausoleum, well, one, we love found footage films deeply. It's our passion, but we also love indie films as well as the filmmakers who create them. And it was a very small budget that you made this movie, but you created such an impact because I did watch it, and I will always say, like, the found footage community and the indie community, we are always going to give grace to the smaller budget films because we know that they are limited by what they do. But I was just surprised at how great and impactful this movie was given what your limitations were. It felt like there were no limitations, and that is just a powerful thing to do as an indie filmmaker and a filmmaker in general.
Well,
uh,
That means a lot to me because yeah, I mean, I've been very honest about the budget on this. It was sub $250 budget for the film essentially, and a good chunk of that was actually I entered 3 film festivals with it, none of which I got into. So that gives you an idea. There was not a huge amount of money being thrown around, but it means a lot to me to hear you say that it sort of punched above its weight, because the reason I made the movie, or at least I guess I would say the goal with making the movie, was to reverse engineer things I had at my disposal so that it looked like they were intentional within a story, so that the movie felt bigger than you would think that it could be for the amount of money I had to spend. And it was kind of designed with the intent of, like, I would say sort of like a throwing down the gauntlet to other people who talk about films but don't ever make it because they think, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the resources. Well, I had almost none of those things too, and I did it. So, like, don't let those things stop you, you know?
Yeah, this is honestly a great example of, if you want to do something and you have the passion behind it, nothing's going to stop you. So, again, I just want to completely give you all the kudos in the world because, like I said, such an impactful movie. And then you, as a filmmaker and as a person, are just really awesome to get to know and easy to support. So, it makes it a lot better that I really did enjoy your movie.
Yeah, I can imagine in your position, it's probably tough to you, Angel, a lot of people who cover this kind of stuff, to remain positive for films that maybe aren't, that don't measure up from whatever reason. I don't even mean budget, but like maybe aren't the most entertaining, or maybe they dropped the ball in the last act or whatever. And so I imagine it can be tough to try and make sure that you're helping the audiences find the movies and the movies find the audiences, while also not feeling like you're being disingenuous. So no, it really means a lot to me that you were, I wouldn't say you were one of the early supporters. I would say you were literally the first early supporter. I think you were the person that connected me with Angel from Voices from the Mausoleum. So a lot of the snowball's effect of the movie being found by an audience now started with you. So I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And again, you made it so easy to do so. The film made it easy to do so. But I am super happy because, like I said, I love found footage. I love indie films, and content creation was something very new to me. So the fact that I was able to help you with your journey on something that you were starting, I really like how this was such a great, like, simpatico relationship.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I'm glad to know that my portrayal of an influencer did not scare you off from continuing to move forward with it.
Honestly, funny enough, yeah, you're right. I didn't even put that part together, but because the movie did have a lasting impact in that, like, oh my gosh, moments. But another thing that I wanted to bring up regarding your movie, because it was, and I believe still is, on POV Horror, where you
Mhm.
can rent it, or you can subscribe to POV Horror and watch it. Um, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I did hear that it got moved to Tubi.
Yeah, well,
It's
added also to two. So it's
Yeah.
still on POV Horror, and it's
Okay,
I
awesome.
think you can rent it on Amazon, and it's maybe on Fossum. But yes, Tubi is the new. I would say that it's definitely the place where it's found the biggest audience so far, just because, like, it's sort of synonymous with found footage at this point. There's found TV, and then there's Tubi. Tubi's
Yes.
recommendations algorithm. But yeah, so it's made it to Tubi, and that has really been a big bump in terms of awareness within the community now that it's available there.
Yeah, and I'm super excited about that because, like I said, I will always champion this movie, and I know the people that have seen it, everybody, at least within my community that I know of who has seen this movie, has had nothing but positive things to say. So the fact that it finally gets to reach a larger audience, and then we all know, like I said earlier, the found footage community specifically, um, they are loyal. They are loyal to the genre, and we really appreciate, like I said, if there are areas where it's not the strongest, we're so forgiving, because as long as you're entertaining, as long as you're delivering something different, we can look past certain shortcomings because we're very understanding of found footage, and that's why we like it. It's gritty, it's unfiltered for the most part, so it's the best avenue for indie filmmakers. So I'm just very excited to see the found footage community grow in watching your movie.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm not going to lie. This is I've already gotten a bigger audience than I ever imagined this movie would, period. And it's still growing. And there's been so many amazing things, surprises for me. The fact that it's going to be screening in a theater, like in an actual legitimate movie theater, is insane.
That's awesome.
Backed by Dread Central. They've been awesome. And yeah, like this journey has been what it has proved to me, like you said, building off of the audience for found footage. Not only are they loyal, but they're also willing to hunt in a way that other fans are not, like I think I mentioned, I forget who it was I was talking to. I was like, I see posts all the time where somebody's like, I've been looking for this movie and the only place I can find is with German subtitles on a DVD that you could get on eBay in a bit. I'm like, these people are dedicated to finding that title that they haven't seen yet, And I really respect that because that's the way that collectors used to be before everything was so easily acquired. Just, you turn on your television and you become choked with the number of options of things that you have to watch. You used to have to work really hard to find a thing that you were passionate about. And it's fun to watch people who are willing to still take that journey now in whatever capacity to find the physical media version of it, or to go download a new app called Fossum they've never heard of because that's the only way they can see this movie I just put out. So it's amazing to watch an audience do that because it reminds me that found footage is, and I've used this comparison a lot when I talk about these movies, it's like the punk rock or the community theater of its genre. Like it democratizes storytelling in a way that community theater used to be. You had to go to Broadway, you had to spend a bunch of money to watch a show. Then they brought theater to your community. You can see it cheap with people that putting it on. Same for punk rock, it's a huge amount of money to learn how to become a musician and buy all that equipment. But also 5 guys in a garage can learn 3 chords and put on a concert, So like there's that energy of like found footage is that version of filmmaking. It's democratized filmmaking,
And that's a fantastic analogy because that's really what it is. And you hit the nail on the head that we are going to go hunt for things. And then we're also it's like another analogy. When you have those people who, when they have their outfits and they don't want to tell you that they got it from a thrift store, but then you have those people that are like, I only paid $2 for this shirt, pants, and shoes. And that's the found footage community too, because we're gonna run and tell everybody, hey, this movie that nobody's ever heard of, you can find it on this YouTube link, or you can find it on Fossum TV. You can find it on when Roku has those random apps that you've never even heard of, and you're like, it's only on this one. We're gonna let people know the movie and where to find it. So again, 100% super happy for you and the success that Ask is finding. But to get into your next project that we're super excited to talk about, and that is Found Footage Finds. So I'm gonna let you tell us what that is, where they can find it, and how it came about.
Okay, I'm gonna keep track of the 3 things I'm supposed to deliver now. So Found Footage Finds is, I've been calling it a docuseries in found footage style because it's shot like a found footage movie. But the premise of it is, it's a 5-episode first season, hopefully first season, not miniseries. We'll see how it performs. Where each episode of the show focuses on a specific subgenre or subcategory of found footage movies, and within that, there's a huge amount of conversation. We talk about the history and the behind the scenes. We have filmmaker interviews, and we have a ton of recommendations from that specific subgenre category. And the goal of the show essentially is, and this sort of goes into why I decided to do it and how it came about, was I am an obsessive sort of curator. The way that my ADHD and sort of like spectrum elements, like the way they coalesce is, I am obsessed with creating lists of things to be able to share with other people, things that they like. And so if you go to my Letterboxd account, you'll find a list of like almost 1,900 found footage films in a single list. But then beyond that, I'm like, it's fun to be able to share that and be like, hey, look at all these movies. But sometimes somebody's like, I really want to watch a found footage vampire film. Well, nobody wants to dig through 1,850 movies to find a vampire film. So I started just as a hobby, like going through that list a little bit at a time, and I would look at the title and be like, oh, well, this fits this category. This is paranormal investigation, or this is Bigfoot, or whatever. And I found slowly that I was like, good Lord, there are so many subcategories and subgenres of horror, of a found footage horror film or found footage film in general. And I hear people all the time asking for recommendations and giving recommendations, but I don't know anywhere where it's been codified to like, here's one thing where they talk just about this kind and they explore the context and the history and some of the filmmakers. I was like, I think I could probably do that. I have the kind of weird, like beautiful mind type brain that wants to organize things like that anyway. And I realized like, I thought it would be good for found footage fans because they do this everywhere. You go on Reddit, everybody's mentioning the thing they just saw or asking about a new thing they want to watch. You go in the Facebook group for found footage fans, same thing. You know, I just finished such and such and it was terrible, or I just finished such and such and it was awesome. You guys should check it out. And I started thinking, well, if they enjoy doing this individually on their own, they would probably really like watching a half-hour show that armed them with like between 17 and 30 titles. You know, they've probably heard of half of them if they're big fans, but the other half, those are new titles to them, you know? And so that was where it's really started clicking to me. I was like, if I shoot it found footage style, it allows me to be able to make it, because I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had to schedule film crews to go shoot filmmakers to make it look documentary style.
Yeah.
But if it's found footage style, they can pull their phone out of their pocket, shoot these questions, send them to me via Google Drive, and then I'm ready to put them in the show, you know? So that was what really cracked it open for me, was like, oh, if it's about found footage movies, it should look like a found footage movie too.
I love that because, so I got to see a little advanced screening of an episode or two, and then I got to see some familiar faces from Voices from the Mausoleum. But no, I actually, when I was watching it, I thought it was super clever to do it found footage style. It just adds to it. And I like, because, yeah, like you said, it's a little talking head, but it's not. And it's almost like watching a found footage film, but in this particular case, it's someone like me who, like you said, I love found footage and I love watching as many as possible. And for someone who has seen so many, it's now become hard to find new things to watch. But to see this found footage style recommendation list, it makes it a lot easier than scrolling through 1900 options on Letterboxd and trying to remember, hey, did I see this one? Did I not? Like, and to subcategorize it, because then that's the other thing. I love found footage film, but sometimes I don't want to see the heavy-handed, like gruesome found footage ones. And you might end up, you're reading something and you're like, oh, I want to watch this one. It sounds cool. And then you realize like, oh man, I was not ready to watch something like Exhibit A.
Yeah.
But like, hey, I'm looking for something a little bit more whimsical, like The Rebrand, and that's under horror comedy. Like, so I do like that. And I'm glad you brought up your Letterboxd list, because that is my guide up until this new found footage finds program, which is definitely my new guide. But I loved looking through your Letterboxd list because it's helped me go through and find new things to watch and to categorize. Because, like, yes, in content creation, I want to start doing like top 5 lists and stuff, and I want to make it pertain to found footage, so it's easy to see what are all these Bigfoot found footage films, what are all these alien found footage films. So I'm excited that that's what this show is bringing. And then our next part is, where can people find this show?
Yes. Well, I was lucky enough in my conversations post-ask, while I was trying to figure out what was the next thing I was going to do. I believe it was Louis Lavella from Found TV just reached out to me very nicely on one of the posts about it being released, and just mentioned, you know, hey, that's great, that's fantastic, you know. And then I think when we had like a private conversation, like just a direct message conversation, he asked if I was interested in putting it on Found, and for distribution reasons, it's not able to go on there because it's with another company. But we started talking about, first of all, that by itself was awesome, but he was just like, hey, want another place to put your movie. You know what I mean? Like him and Monica are just super, super supportive of everybody in the world that's making found footage films. And so they made the offer, and I felt bad because I was like, of course I would love to have this be the home. But right now I can't. However, I was looking for a new project, and then I told them a little bit about the idea of found footage finds, and they were immediately like, oh, that sounds exactly like the kind of stuff we would love to have. And so I was like, all right, well, let me do some brainstorming on this and figure out if there's a way for me to actually make this show, or if it's just a pipe dream. And then where we landed was, eventually this show will probably be on several platforms at some point, because I'm sort of doing self-distribution. But what I wanted to do was, I wanted it to premiere as an exclusive premiere with Found TV first. And the reason for that is because I feel like Found TV feels like what Found Footage Finds is supposed to be, which is like this repository where you can go and literally no matter what you click on, you're going to find a good thing in the subgenre that you care about, you know? And you may not like every title, but it will be an appropriate thing because it's a found footage film and they have a lot of titles there that aren't even anyplace else. You know, they get titles that maybe like Amazon didn't think was good enough or whatever, you know, like it doesn't even get picked up elsewhere, but they do it because their interest is in providing to the audience they know loves it because they're part of that audience. So that's where it will premiere. So on Wednesday, June 4th, it will be premiering as an exclusive. And then for every Wednesday through the month of June, it will be appearing as the exclusive premiere on Found TV. After which point it will probably start to roll out to other platforms, but I'm planning for that after the run is done and we do it with Found TV first. So, because they were awesome and I just wanted to work with them.
And I'm so happy that you guys found each other in that capacity because this is a perfect partnership to me for a few reasons. One, like you said, Found Footage Finds feels like what Found TV is all about, and it is from the found footage aspect, but there's another really important aspect of what Found Footage Finds is, as well as Found TV, that I would love to touch upon, and that is the feel of the found footage community. Because I feel that you are very ingrained into the found footage community, as well as Monica and Louie over at Found TV. And Found TV is, like you said, they're showing the movies that probably aren't other places because you're right. People didn't want to take on a chance on these movies, but they partner with the content creators and they do like they'll have a content creator of the month and that person's top 10 recommendations are there. And from the found footage community, we're not getting recommendations from Wes Craven, John Carpenter's, Stephen King's type of people that we have no personal connection to. We're getting it from the people that I'm like, I talk to this guy. I know these people, like, and it feels more authentic to get these recommendations. And that's what I love about Found TV, but that's what I'm also loving about Found Footage Finds, because again, same thing. Yes, we're dealing with the directors of the independent found footage films as well, but you contacted the found footage community. It is the actual ingrained community that we talk to each other, we talk amongst each other, we give each other recommendations. So to see people that I admire, look up to, hang out with, being a part of something like this, and then it's going to be on a streaming service. I really like that collaboration of you, Found TV, and the found footage community. So I would like to bring up to you, have you talk about the found footage community and what it means to you.
Yeah, well, so it was very important to me, and you will know this better than anyone because you actually contributed to one of the episodes with a recommendation for a film. And you actually, interestingly, you didn't know this at the time, but the movie that you recommended, the filmmaker who made another movie in that series actually introduced her other film in the episode. So what I love about this series is it was very important to me to have fans' recommendations in the same episode as filmmakers talking about their films, because this, like you said, more than any other genre of film or almost more than any other art form, the overlap between found footage fan and found footage filmmaker is there's barely any separation. And what I mean by that is not necessarily separation between the two individual groups, but so many people are both. I am a found footage filmmaker now. I am also a huge found footage fan. I am also now technically I don't know what you would call it, like a critic or a content creator talking about the content that other creators are making. So I have like a foot in several camps. And what was important to me was to let them all stand side by side in the same episode of television so that people could see how open, big tent, welcoming this community can be. Not that it always is. There are some people who are negative because you're always going to get a small percentage. Yeah. But here I find it's a much smaller percentage than most places because people are very supportive, like you talked about earlier. So yeah, for me, the idea was like, yes, there are going to be segments that I'm in, but the first segment which is mostly me, is talking about history and context of the genre, subgenre. So you have a frame of reference. I want to take it seriously and give you the past. But then the next segment is talking about, then I talk to a filmmaker. Then we have experts and super fans, people who, either have studied this and written about it, or people who just watched a ton of them. Then we have actual just straight up found footage fans that want to recommend a title. And then we also have, the 3 or 4 more filmmakers. Then we have segments solely for like, here's the most well-known ones, here's 5 obscure ones. And then at the end, I even wrap out with, if that wasn't enough, go to this letterbox list and you'll find all the titles I could find. Because for me, the idea is that I think every single episode, I think I end with the phrase, today's found footage fan is tomorrow's found footage filmmaker, because it's the only genre where that's true. Like, I can't be a Mission Impossible fan and then decide I'm going to go make a Mission Impossible movie tomorrow. That won't happen. But I can watch a movie where 2 dudes go out in the woods and then get murdered by something, and then think, oh, you know what? I can probably do that, because I literally can do that. I can reach into my pocket right now and pull out the camera that will allow me to do that. So there is that, I guess you call it the moment at any time someone can become another part of the found footage community. And I love the crossover potential of that. So I wanted to reflect that in the show.
Yeah. And again, back to community, because we did talk about filmmakers, and honestly, I do believe that almost every single found footage filmmaker who loves the projects that they do are doing it because they were found footage fans first. Maybe if they're older, maybe they caught Blair Witch Project and was like, I need to make this. I need to do this. Or they just saw something else and was like, you know what? That seemed easy enough. I want to dip my toes, because here's the thing. Found footage is a great place to start. Even if you do want to make a Mission Impossible movie, if you do want to make a horror film that's bigger like Hereditary, you still need to know certain things. And I feel like you can learn on the fly with found footage. That's not to say that it's easy and everyone should do it. I mean, actually, I am kind of saying that to an extent.
Yeah.
Everyone should do it to see that you can do it. Just because I say it's easy doesn't mean that it's actually easy. You still have to put your passion and you still have to work at it, but it's, again,
the threshold of external boundaries is much lower in terms of, like, there's less things outside of you stopping you from doing it. Most of the things that are stopping us in found footage would be our own, our own fears about it, or our own lack of ideas, or whatever. Those are usually the boundaries for found footage, not like, I need $1 million to put this thing together, So,
because like you said, so you made ask, we said, for about $250.
Yep.
And that was, like you said, mostly for festival entries and stuff like that. I will always bring up this movie for this particular reason, because I do love finding out what people made movies for. And there is a movie that also came out in 2024 called New Folder. It's a POV horror film. Not a lot happens, to be honest, but something about you're in the actual point of view of someone who is stalking someone. So it feels very visceral. It feels very like primal.
I am. Don't mind me. I'm literally just writing down that title right now so that I have something to watch later tonight.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. Again, not a lot happens, but something about it just really stuck with me and how I felt, because I felt like I shouldn't have been watching it, because I felt like I was the person doing the bad things.
Right. Yeah. No, I love movies like that. It's like no story, just vibes kind of thing, where like it's all about the mood.
$4.
Wow. Okay. Well, I thought mine was impressive, but that's a whole other level.
And it's one of those things, obviously, and I don't mean, and this is what I love about the found footage community, because when we say things like this, it is not a negative, but it looks like it was made for $4.
Yeah.
It has that grittiness. It makes
it's like you said earlier, like you wear that as a badge of honor. It's not an embarrassing thing in this genre. Like in other genres, you like try to hide how much money you spent because you hope that people think it's higher quality than it is. And it's here, it's like, no, it's the opposite, man. Like, look what I pulled off for nothing,
Exactly. So going back to that, so this movie was made for $4. I do recommend it. It's not going to be for everyone, but no movie is for everyone. So I do recommend that one. But then, getting back to the horror community part of it, like I said, the filmmakers are fans. And what I do love about that, and especially in found footage finds, is you do see filmmakers hyping up other filmmakers' movies, because nobody is, even though like technically when you are making movies, you are sort of you're competing for viewership, but in this community, you're really not. You're hyping each other up, and you're passing along another great movie to someone else. And like we said earlier, the found footage community, we're gonna watch them all. So just be patient. We will get to your movie.
For sure. Yeah, well, I think all the time about the idea that movies are only a competition when places like studios get involved, right? When there's only 11 screens to put your movie on, it's a competition for space, right?
Yes.
But there is no space in there's, I guess you'd say, there's no scarcity in the virtual space, right?
Right.
Tubi is not going to run out of room to show movies, right? So what will end up happening is certain movies, yes, will rise above because a lot of people watch them. Then it gets into the recommends. Then people recommend them and such and such. But the thing is, if you want to hunt, you'll always find the stuff. And these people want to hunt, like our audience wants to hunt. So for me, I've never seen it in any way as competition in the strictest sense, because like you said, what's the longest found footage movie in existence? 2 hours probably, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know people who watch like 4 found footage movies a week, two found footage movies a day. They burn through them like crazy. So like, it's not really competition when you think about it like that. Like musicians don't think of each other as competitors because they write a 2.5-minute song, and when it's over, somebody's going to listen to another song afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way that I look at found footage film in particular, because the way that most of us make money is not, we didn't get paid up front and then the movie goes out into the world and everybody crosses their fingers that it profits. We made it for almost nothing. We put it out into the world ourselves, and then depending on how much that audience continues to grow through our cultivation and the word of mouth, that's where we slowly get paid our money. But what's great about that is that it means that it's a shelf life that you don't have when you're a studio filmmaker. You get paid up front and then you get percentages of how well the movie does, but only, there's only so many venues for it. Stays in theaters for a few weeks, goes on POV, what do you call it? Paid streaming. And then, who knows where it ends up. It's Amazon Prime getting paid a fraction of a cent for every hour it's streamed, but that's a tough journey when you're making a movie that's huge, because then you have to make huge returns. But if I can make a $250 movie, then like I'm already in profit for ask, you know what I mean? I was after the first quarter. So like, that's what's exciting about this is like the movie's out there right now making money, not a ton, but it's making money. It's already profitable because I made it for so little and because the audience is so loyal and willing to find it and share it.
So we talked about your movie Ask. We talked about found footage finds, which premiered this Wednesday, June 4th on Found TV. So again, as a director of found footage, I think you have a great film on your hands. As a creator producer of a docu-series, I think you're creating something very special to the found footage community. And we talked about your letterbox and how you make your list. You said you look at yourself as a found footage curator. And honestly, I look to you as more of a found footage expert and honestly a found footage historian. If there is one, I feel like you might be the first one. Where did that passion for found footage come from? Have you always been a fan of it? Where did this come from? Because you are such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the found footage world and space. And I just want to know where that started.
Yeah, well, what I can tell you, I don't know that it was conscious, like I was consciously aware of it when I saw it, but I saw the Blair Witch Project in theaters when it came out. I lived in Texas at the time, and we had to drive like 45 minutes to find an indie theater that was showing it, because this was in its initial release, before it was huge, before everybody knew what it was. And so we drove like 45 minutes, and it was friends of mine that were filmmaker friends. And so what we decided, because we knew what it was about, we were like, okay, so we're going to drive. It's a 45-minute drive. We're going to go see the movie. And then now that we've seen it, we're going to make a parody of the film on the way back. And we were going to make something called the Blair Witch Project, which the joke was going to be 4 filmmaker friends leave on a trip to go see the Blair Witch Project. They were never heard from again. Right. And so the joke is we get lost trying to come home from seeing the film. But we watched the movie, and it was so good and it was so effing scary that we were all 4 almost college age men terrified to get out of the van at night to shoot footage for our parody. So like, and I should have known at the time that it was because of the power of the style of filmmaking. I just thought it was good filmmaking. But I think I've realized in later years in my life, what I like about found footage is that it helps to strip away the artifice that when a movie tries to tell you how you're supposed to feel, as opposed to allowing you to get to the place you're supposed to feel through context. Like when someone zooms in on someone's face, you know that it's supposed to be their face is now important. That emotional reaction is the thing you need to know. When you hear a musical sting, you know that that means this is how you're supposed to feel at this moment. And as someone who has always struggled a bit with social cues myself, I have found weirdly that I'm much better at understanding people when I'm seeing them on a screen than when I'm communicating with them in real life. I don't know what that means. I suspect that I'm on the spectrum somewhere, but I've never tested it. But because of that, I've discovered that found footage filmmaking was not only helpful to me in helping feel like I can understand the interactions between people, but I also felt like it's a more honest portrayal of the way that people communicate, because it looks like the way that we talk to each other. The dialogue is not usually mapped out very carefully in found footage films the way that it is in other movies. You know, there's that level of artifice to dialogue because everything has to be exciting and plot driven, and you know what I mean? And we don't do that with found footage, intentionally so, because we want all of the other elements to seem as realistic as the way that it's shot. And there was something very appealing to me about that because it opens up a whole new filmic language. In a way, it's the second evolutionary step past regular movies. I use this comparison, not to get super, super nerdy, I apologize, but there's a biological thing called Batesian mimicry, right? And that's when an animal in nature starts to appear like another animal that is dangerous, even though it is not, right? So for example, there is a kind of snake that looks like a poisonous snake. The colors on its body look similar to a poisonous snake. Well, guess what? That snake now doesn't get eaten by predator birds who know that that kind of snake is quote unquote poisonous, right? So that in mimicry, that looking like a dangerous animal, even though you're not dangerous, makes you survive. And I kind of feel that's true about found footage films. Found footage films aren't real life, but they mimic real life so that when terrifying things happen in it, they're more terrifying because it feels like they're realistic. And something about that was really appealing to me. And then so I just started just diving in, you know, that obsession that I have with curating became a thing focused specifically on found footage, probably because the people were more accessible, the films were more accessible. You know what I mean? Like I could feel like I was a part of that community in a way that I wasn't for other things. So just all of those pieces combined together to me. And then I was like, well, and now I got to find out where this started. Like, how does this come about? You know, like I can't just start looking from the moment I discovered forward. I got to go backwards and find out. So that's when I sort of started doing all the research to figure out what was the first time someone made something that was fake but was supposed to look real. What was the first feature film that ever featured fake documentaries? And so I guess you're right. Sort of by accident, I have become a bit of a historian in the genre, but only because I was just interested in learning about it myself.
Yeah, and like I said, I really do stand by that. The found footage community loves the found footage world, and we do like to learn about it. We do know a lot more than other people do with their subgenres a lot of the time. And like you said, because a lot of it's accessible, I can reach out to certain directors of my favorite movies and find out fun facts. If I wanted to do a review, I'm sure I could ask any found footage filmmaker that I admire and say, hey, I'm doing this project. One, would you like to be interviewed? If not, would you like to give me some fun facts that no one knows that I could put into this? And then you learn so much. And I've been learning so much from your letterbox alone, because I do like the little brief descriptions that you give about the categories. From the 2 episodes that I've seen of found footage finds, I am learning so much already. So I'm excited to see the rest of the community, and specifically like casual newer found footage fans, learning and immediately jumping into this, because I think the more you know about something, the more you're going to feel compelled to watch. So I want to thank you for that, because I think this is going to be something very special, something very big for found footage in general. I see this being something that takes off. So I really hope it does. And again, I think everybody who has been able to interview you about this, everybody who took part in this, I just see everyone going to bat for this as much as possible, and it's gonna be shared. It's gonna be so much exposure, and I can't wait to see the new found footage fans that come because of this docuseries.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for saying that. It's weird when you're almost the sole person creating something, because you do it in a vacuum and you never have any idea really like how is this going to play to an audience. You know what I mean? Is it going to be received? But what you just said is, for me, is the most important thing. There are two primary audiences I think will get the most from this. One is the audience like you, right? Which you've seen a ton of movies and you're always looking for the deep cuts, but you're also looking for context on the subgenre itself, because you've probably seen a dozen of them, but maybe you haven't sort of stepped back and looked at the history and philosophy and psychology of why those movies are effective to you. And that's something I like to talk about. So for longtime fans, I think they get that. But for new fans, for me, what I think is most exciting is the idea that someone could have just like randomly, let's say they watch regular Bigfoot movies, and then they happen to see Bigfoot, the Lost Coast tapes, or Exists, or Willow Creek, right? One of the, kind of like the top tier ones that everybody knows about. Maybe they saw it on Tubi and they were like, oh man, that's really good. I didn't know you could do that with a documentary. Well, they don't necessarily know what's the next step for finding other people who have done this, right? Or they do it. They look up Bigfoot found footage films and then they get a list of 70 movies. They don't know which ones are good or bad, or they can't find a list anywhere. And then it's a crapshoot. And sometimes you come across one bad one and it makes them think, oh, I guess these aren't very good and I don't want to bother continuing. So that's the other thing I think the power of this show might be, is like in saying the thing that you liked, look at this, treasure trove of other titles that do similar things. Here's a few people talking about the ones they made. Here's a few other titles. Here's some other fans that share your same interests, because then it makes them feel accepted and also like the journey is worth continuing to take. And that for me is more important than anything else. So yeah, I'm with you. Fingers crossed that it finds its audience, because I already have season 2 episodes planned out and even a few filmmaker interviews captured, ready to go for them. It's just a matter of, I got to know that the audience is there and interested for it in order for me to be doing that instead of, whatever the next, a sequel to Ask or some other film, But I really hope people like it. One of the things I love doing about it is, and you saw this because you saw the Screen Life episode. The Screen Life episode is actually filmed like an actual Screen Life movie, where there's a computer desktop and I'm in one window and then the stuff I'm talking about is in another one. I tried to, for every episode, to make the way that I'm talking about things reflect the aesthetic of that kind of film to some degree, So the 2 episodes of premiere are the Bigfoot one and the Screen Life one. And I tried to have those stories reflect the way that those movies in the subgenre looked as well. So I would love to keep going, because I've got a lot more cool genres that I could try and do, like, stylistic interpretations of for all those other episodes.
Yeah, well, yeah, like we said, I do think, I 100% believe that this is going to find its audience and that you will 100% get that clearing for season 2 and hopefully more. But you did touch on it just a little bit, so I did want to say, because I know you are hoping for this season 2 and to get into it. Outside of that, do you have anything else that you're thinking about? Like, are there any other projects in the works for you?
Yes. The short answer is yes. It's impossible for me to only be working on one thing at a time. That's the healthy way to function in the world, but that's not how I do it. So there is, I mentioned it sort of in joking, but I am in fact working right now on a concept for a potential sequel to Ask. In all likelihood, it is going to happen. It's just a matter of me, much like the first film, there were some things that had to happen in the real world in order for me to be able to film them for this to work. And the same thing is true for the second one. I have a couple of things I know I want to do, and I just have to wait to see if those things are actually going to happen in real life so that I can use those moments as inspiration to shoot the footage that belongs in the film. So there's a sequel to Ask. Then there's potentially season 2 of Found Footage Finds. And then right now, there's an idea I'm working on for another, just a standalone film. That is, it's a little bit more complicated than Ask in terms of like the technical aspects of it, but it's still a contained, much more of a traditional sort of found footage supernatural thriller type story. And then 2 films I can't talk about because I'm working with other filmmakers on them, and I didn't run it past them whether or not I could talk about them yet. So I don't want to get in trouble.
No worries.
Yeah, for letting the cat out of the bag. But I am definitely working with 2 other filmmakers on specific projects that will. One of them is a series and one of them is a movie. I guess I can say that. And so, just keep my fingers crossed that those come to fruition. Because the thing about a found footage film is like, sometimes you can shoot them in a week and a half. Sometimes it takes you 2.5 years of finding pieces of things, so you never know. So I don't want to announce anything before I know how long it's going to be before it's out there. But there's definitely at least, 4 or 5 potential projects that I'm working on in tandem. So.
Well, that's awesome. And Voices from the Mausoleum specifically, myself and Angel individually, and honestly, I can just see the found footage community. We're all excited for everything and anything you have coming out. Because again, in the found footage community, you are so involved. You give so much insight. I think you are a great part of the community. So I'm excited that you were the one spearheading found footage finds. Have nothing but nice things to say about you. I could go on for a while.
Well, honestly, that's why I showed up. I mostly just wanted to come so that you could tell me really nice things about me, because that's what I need. That's obviously what I didn't get as a child. So I'm just here for all of the adulation.
But yeah, so viewers, again, Chris Vander Kaay, you can find his movie Ask on POV Horror. You can find it on Tubi. You can find it on Fossum. And hey, look for other spots and let him know where you found it. And found footage finds, which we talked a lot about today, can be found on Found TV already, the first 2 episodes. And again, every Wednesday, there's going to be a new episode releasing. These are all exclusive. Season 1 is very exclusive to Found TV for right now. Make sure to watch all of Chris's links for everything he's a part of, and especially found footage finds will be listed below. Again, thank you so much for taking this time to be here and talk to us, Chris. You are welcome anytime. If you have any ideas, let us know. I will never say no to having you on the show.
All right. Well, be careful what you promise in public, Mike, because I will probably just hit you up and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are doing for Friday, but I'm bored. What movie are you watching and can I sit in on it?
Sounds great, honestly. Well, again, viewers, that is our episode of Found Footage Fridays. We will catch you next Friday. See ya.